You're listening to the Power Agent Blogcast, empowering agents to elevate their business to the next level.
Challenges are just a guide, leading you, don't run and hide. You've got the heart, you've got the drive, feel it pound, you're alive. Power Agent.
Welcome to the Power Agent Blogcast. Today we're tackling something pretty common, I think, for many agents. That moment when a seller, late in the game, asks for a commission reduction.
Yeah, it's definitely a scenario that pops up. An offer's on the table, things seem to be moving, and then this request.
Exactly. It can feel, well, awkward, maybe even a bit jarring after you thought everything was agreed upon.
Right. So our aim today is to give you some solid strategies, how to handle these talks confidently, professionally.
While still trying to keep that deal together and close it. That's the goal.
Absolutely. Protecting your value, but also saving the client and getting the house sold. It's a balance.
Okay, let's paint the picture. You've got an offer, maybe not full price, but decent. Seller seems okay with it. And then they say, all right, we'll accept. If both agents cut their commission from, say, 3% down to 2.5%.
That's the classic setup. Feels like it comes out of nowhere sometimes.
So faced with that,
Yeah.
what's the very first thing an agent should do? What's step one?
Step one is crucial. Before you even think about defending your commission, you need to figure out why they're asking. Don't jump to conclusions.
Meaning, don't assume they're unhappy with your service or just trying to squeeze you.
Exactly. Start by asking questions. Let's use an example. Imagine a house listed at $389,000. An offer comes in at $350,000. And maybe that $350K is the absolute max the buyer's pre-approved for.
Okay.
In that situation, the seller asking for a commission cut might have nothing to do with you. They might just be looking at the gap, that $39,000 difference, and trying to find ways, anyway, to make the numbers work better for them.
So it's potentially about their net proceeds, not necessarily your fee itself.
Precisely. You need to differentiate. Is this really about your commission, or is it about the seller's financial situation and trying to solve that puzzle? The best way is often to reframe it.
How do you mean reframe it?
You could say something like, okay, I hear you. So if I'm understanding this right, what you're really aiming for is to net an extra. Let's say $3,500 from this deal. Is that about right?
Gotcha. So you shift the conversation away from the percentage cut.
And onto the actual dollar amount they feel they need. It turns it into a problem-solving discussion about their desired bottom line, not just a debate about your pay.
That's smart. It changes the dynamic. Okay, so you've identified the real issue is they need, say, $3,500 more net. What's the very next step? Do you offer to cut?
No, not yet. Not at all. Before you even think about adjusting your commission, your job is to explore absolutely every other option to get that $3,500 for the seller.
Right. Show them you're working for them to solve their problem first.
Exactly. It demonstrates your commitment to their goal without immediately giving up your own agreed-upon compensation.
So what are those options? What avenues should you explore?
First, talk to the buyer's agent. And importantly, you don't mention commission at this stage.
Okay.
You just say, look, we're close, but my seller needs an additional $3,500 to make this deal work. See what they say. Maybe the buyer has access to a bit more cash. Maybe gift money is an option. You probe for flexibility.
Explore the buyer side thoroughly. What else?
Talk to the loan officer involved. Sometimes a buyer can actually qualify for slightly more than their initial pre-approval suggested. It's worth checking.
Good point. Any other angles?
Look at closing costs. Can the buyer contribute a bit more there? That might free up some cash that indirectly helps the seller's net. And, sometimes there are creative financing options, though less common. They're worth considering.
So the strategy is try to get that extra money from the buyer in any way possible first.
Absolutely. Exhaust all those possibilities before the conversation circles back to your commission.
Okay, makes sense. But let's say you do all that. You go back to the buyer's side, you push, you talk to the lender, and the buyer can come up, but only by, say, $2,500 in our example.
Right, so there's still a $1,000 gap.
And the seller is still looking at you saying, okay, well, can you just take $1,000 less in commission then? Now what?
Now you employ a different kind of reframing. This is where you might use an analogy or a perspective shift for the seller.
Like?
You could say something like this. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, look at it this way. Right now, your house is effectively sold for $352,500. That's the original $350K plus the $2,500 the buyer added. If you turn this offer down now over just $1,000, you're essentially deciding to buy your own house back for $352,500 plus holding costs just to maybe get a slightly higher offer later. Are you really prepared to do that over $1,000?
That puts it starkly. It makes the $1,000 seem small in comparison to walking away.
Yeah.
It frames it as their cost to keep the house, not your cost to sell it.
Exactly. It shifts the focus back to their decision and the financial reality of rejecting the current offer. You can also elaborate a bit more, appeal to fairness and the value you've provided.
How would that sound?
You could say, think about it. If your boss came to you after you'd done a big project and said, great job, but I'm cutting your agreed upon pay for it, how would that feel? Would it motivate you for the next task?
Probably not.
Right. It kind of undermines the value of the work done, and honestly makes me wonder, if an agent is quick to cut their fee right at the finish line, where else might they be cutting corners? You hired me for my marketing, my network, my ability to bring buyers, and we did that. We have this offer. Now, instead of recognizing that effort, the focus shifts to reducing our compensation. Does that feel right? Maybe not. But look, you're my client. I want what's best for you. So here's what I'm willing to do. Let me go back one more time to the buyer. I'll explain the situation, see if there's any possibility they can find that last $1,000, even though they're at their limit. Let me try that first. How does that sound?
That's a really strong approach.
Yeah.
It validates their position as the client, reinforces your value, questions the practice of cutting commissions, and offers one last attempt before conceding anything.
It keeps a focus on finding solutions while holding the line on your value.
But what if, even after all that, the seller just digs in their heels? No, I understand, but I still need you to reduce your commission by that $1,000.
Okay, if it truly comes down to that, then you need to stand firm on the value proposition. Clearly, calmly, professionally.
What would that sound like? Give us the words.
You could state, I understand your position. However, I don't cut my commission because my fee isn't part of the negotiation between you and the buyer over the price of the house. You're paying me for my expertise, the marketing plan we executed, my network access, and my skill in bringing qualified buyers and offers like this one to the table. That work has been done. If you choose to sell your home for $352,500, that's absolutely your decision to make. But my commission is earned based on the services I've already provided to get you to this point.
Wow. That's direct, but professional. It draws a clear line. Price negotiation is separate from the agreed-upon fee for services rendered.
It has to be. It reinforces that your value isn't just a number to be haggled down. It's tied to specific actions and results already delivered.
Are there any sort of analogies you can use to help sellers grasp this concept? Sometimes a good analogy really clicks.
Yeah, there are a couple that can be effective. One is the airplane fuel analogy.
Okay.
You could say, think of it like this. You're asking me to reduce my commission to make the deal happen. Imagine you're on a plane ready for takeoff, and the pilot announces they're going to use less fuel than planned to save the airline some money.
Uh-oh. I wouldn't like that.
Right, you'd be worried. Because that fuel is essential for a safe and successful flight. My commission in this transaction is like the fuel. It ensures everything runs smoothly, that all parties stay engaged, and that we reach our destination closing successfully. Cutting it introduces risk we don't need.
That's a good one. It connects the fee to a smooth, successful outcome. What's the other one?
The championship boxer analogy.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Imagine a boxer in the final round of a championship fight. They're exhausted but close to winning. Then their coach tells them, hey, save some energy, throw fewer punches.
Terrible advice. They probably lose.
Exactly. We're in the final round here with this deal. You want me and the buyer's agent fully energized, throwing all the punches needed to get this across the finish line. Our commission is that energy. Asking us to reduce it now is like telling that boxer to ease up right when the win is in sight. We need everyone fully committed to securing the victory, the successful closing.
Both of those really drive home the point that the commission isn't just arbitrary. It's tied to the effort and resources needed to complete the job properly.
Correct. They help shift the perception from it being just a cost to it being an investment in a successful outcome.
So wrapping this all up, what's the really big takeaway here for agents facing this situation?
The core message is this. Your commission reflects your professional value. It's not just another bargaining chip like the price of the house itself.
And caving in too easily sends the wrong signal.
It absolutely can. Agreeing to cuts without going through this process, without pushing back and exploring alternatives, can undermine your perceived value. It sets a potentially harmful precedent, both for that client and maybe for your future business if word gets around.
So it really impacts your long-term standing and credibility.
Definitely. Real estate is built on relationships and confidence. When you handle these tricky commission conversations strategically, stand by your value respectfully but firmly, you actually build more credibility.
And ideally, when sellers truly understand the expertise and effort you bring from the start.
They're much less likely to even ask for that reduction later on. They see the value they're paying for.
That's a powerful point. It's not just about reacting in the moment, but about establishing your value throughout the entire process. So for everyone listening, maybe think about how you can apply these strategies. And consider this. How does truly understanding and communicating your own value change how you approach negotiations and build those lasting client relationships? Something to mull over.